Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Peculiar Happenings. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Lee.
And hopefully this time we are not having any audio issues.
Hopefully.
Because we had to restart the last episode after 5 minutes because there was someone in the little recording booth area that was like, you need to turn up your volume. We can't hear you. And that was stressful.
It was a little petrifying. I'm not going to lie.
It was so stressful. I still think nothing beats the time when we were doing Radiothon the one time, though, and something happened. It wasn't anything we did,
Yeah, I know.
but someone literally, threw the door open and ran in to do something, and we were sitting there like...
Yeah, we thought we'd messed up, but it's just because it had gone down for 2.5 seconds or something.
Because it was dead air.
Yeah.
I was half expecting, the command board to start, bursting into flames and smoking or something.
we clicked the wrong button and it decombusted.
Yeah. There's just the casual button that makes things explode. They have that in every. They have that in every station.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have the
it's common
self-destruct
feature.
button on anything.
Exactly. All right. So this is. Oh my gosh! You know what today's episode is? We're episode 13. We're on episode 13.
Episode 13.
It's such a fun number. And I feel
a fun
It's a
number.
fitting number for today's episode.
Is it your favorite number?
Yes, maybe.
It is.
Maybe. I also like 3 though. I also like 3. 3 is a very good solid number.
3's my favorite number.
3 is such a fun
3
number.
and
I
5
love
are
it.
my go-to numbers.
They're nice, round, friendly numbers.
Yeah.
Which is a normal thing to say about numbers.
Exactly.
Normal thing to say about numbers.
It definitely is. I have a weird thing with numbers because in my brain I'm like, oh, well, there's 3 sisters in my family and then there's 5 family members. So those are my go-to numbers.
That's real.
I have to do anything 3 times or 5 times. Definitely probably the OCD coming
I was about
but
to
it's fine.
say, that sounds a little like OCD to me. But I can't diagnose you. Well, actually, self-diagnosis is valid. As long as it's not like you see one thing on TikTok that's like, people with ADHD do this, and you're like, oh my gosh, I do one of these things.
Oh my gosh, that's me, guys.
That's so me. That's not self-diagnosis. Self-diagnosis is you do research, you're thinking about it for a long amount of time, and it makes a bunch of things sort of click into place about your life that's not explained otherwise. Anyway, we're getting off topic. What's today's episode about?
Today's episode.
Oh my goodness.
My bad, guys. Is a very special episode. It is our Scooby Doo Spectacular Part 2.
Which I think the first one was either called the Scooby Doo Special or the Scooby Doo Spectacular. I forget exactly the title that I put in the email.
I'll pull it up eventually.
Yeah. It's not on YouTube yet. It's not on YouTube yet. It exists solely in my email sent folder.
Real. And I think I deleted the cover art they did only because I don't have enough storage in my phone. So after I send it to you to send it out, I have to delete it, or else my phone will start glitching.
Yeah, that's valid. No, because they're all still in my phone. They're all still in our text messages.
Oh right, we can go to our texts.
So that's actually what I'm doing right now.
True.
Hold on. We called it the Scooby Special.
The Scooby Special.
So this is gonna have to be the Scooby Special Part 2 because last time we talked about the 2002 and 2004 Scooby Doo live action movies, the original cartoon. I think some of the other animated movies.
Yes, we touched on that briefly.
And Mystery Incorporated.
Mystery Incorporated.
But now we're going to talk about some other stuff because we've watched some more stuff. I've watched the live-action Scooby-Doo movies that you grew up with. Because we grew up with... my favorite live-action ones that I watched over and over again until my parents wanted to burn the DVD was the 2002 and 2004 ones. But ones that you watched over and over again, well, maybe I should say one, was Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins. And then there was also Scooby-Doo, The Curse of the Lake Monster.
Oh, so many things will be said about that movie.
I'm so excited to talk about this movie because it was, that's a conversation for later. Yeah. Let's start with Mystery Incorporated.
Mystery Incorporated.
Because since the last Scooby special, because over spring break we finished season 1, and we are now, I believe we're now at least halfway into season 2.
We're pretty far in it.
If this next week, if you have time or energy and want to watch it, we might be able to finish then, or at least get very close to finishing the entire series.
Oh, we definitely could. We definitely could. We could slot out a few hours to watch it.
I mean, I don't even think it would take too many hours because I think we're on episode 11 out of maybe
you said there's 26 or something.
26 or 23,
which
something
isn't bad
like that.
because they're 20 minutes.
Yeah, they're 20 minutes. It's quite reasonable.
Yeah, and once we get in, because it's starting, the point that we've gotten, the lore is really starting to unravel.
Oh yeah.
And so I think once we get there, it'll become hard to not stop.
It'll become hard to stop. We'll be drawn in. But let's update. What do you remember that happened since the last time we talked about it? Because the last time we were towards the end of season 1, I think. We hadn't finished it yet. I think you had some theories. You had one spot on theory at one point before spring break. Because I remember we were getting Starbucks the day before spring break, and you guessed something exactly. And I had to be like, whoa, Lee, that would be
crazy
so
if they actually
crazy
did that.
If that happened. That would be bonkers. That would be wild.
Absolutely wild.
It would be so wild. Yeah.
It was great because this was my logic behind my theory. So I had a theory that Fred, his father, was not the mayor, and that it was actually going to be the two, Judy and Brad.
Did you think it was then from the beginning? Is my question, or did you just think that the mayor wasn't his dad? Because I don't remember the exact details.
I can't remember. I think I thought that they just weren't. That the mayor wasn't Fred's dad, only because, and I know like parents can have different hair colors and stuff, but the mayor didn't necessarily look like Fred, other than the jawline was the only thing that could potentially piece it together.
Square brick jawline.
Yeah. And I had a feeling, and then they mentioned something about Judy and Brad. I can't remember what it was. Oh, I remember. It's because I think it was Mr. E made a comment, or maybe it was Angel Dynamite.
It could have been either one of them, because I know before season 2, the two members of the original Mystery Incorporated, well, not the original, the previous incarnation of Mystery Incorporated, who they came up with in the Mystery Incorporated, the only two members we knew so far were, at this point in season 1, I think, it was Mr. E, and then we knew that, we learned that, spoilers, by the way, sorry, same as when we're talking about Stranger Things. All spoilers. Everything's on the table.
Yeah.
And then we learned that Angel's Dynamite was Cassidy Williams, which I have to agree with you. I think that plot twist would have hit a little harder if they had more than one black character.
Yeah, a little bit more diversity. Just because, too, the way her hair in the old photos is in 2 buns.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of afro, like looking like the buns are, and then her hair is in an afro.
And that's just the hair texture that the character has, I think.
Definitely.
But I definitely think that plot twist would have hit harder if because I mean the show, it's not perfect. I think it first came out in either 2010 and ended in like 2012,
I think
2013.
We did the math at one point, or we searched it at one point, and now I can't remember again.
No, it was like around that time frame. It wasn't perfect. But I have to agree with you so much that plot twist would have hit harder if they literally had at least one other female character of color that was like sort of recurring. Because it was like, it wasn't too hard to piece together. Because again, the singular she was character. The singular black woman that was a recurring character. Yeah. So... Yeah.
It was either one of them, but my logic was that they had kind of dropped a hint that Fred was somehow thoughts. Okay. So Brad.
It's okay. Take your time.
And now her name is
Brad and Judy.
Brad and Judy. They were coming back. I think it was Cassidy who was telling Mr. E that they were on their way back to town. And then Mr. E was like, well, why are they on their way back? And then they were like,
I know what you're talking about now.
They're going to come back if Fred Jones is involved or something like that. And I was like, that's too suspicious, man. And they're also both blondes and they both have blondes. That look. I was like, there's no way that those people are not Fred's parents.
Yep. And I think that was a very good connection to make. That was a very good connection to make, I have to say. But, yeah, that was wild. Sorry, I'm yawning now. And now Lee's yawning.
No, we feed off each other too.
Yeah, it happens. But I was going to say... that was such a wild plot twist.
Oh, it was.
And also, it explains why the mayor didn't like his interest in traps so much.
Yeah.
Because his parents were prominent trappers. And that was their thing. That was their thing.
It showed too much.
It was too much like their parents. And again, getting too much into that mystery solving like his parents.
Yeah.
He was trying to sever him from his parents.
I'm not going to lie. I am slightly disappointed that the mayor turned out to be kind of, an A.
Yeah.
Just because I thought he was funny. I loved his Jiminy Cricket Fred.
His
thought it
like
was
cold
so
clam
funny.
chowder, Fred Jones.
He
What
would
are you
s-
doing?
He would say the most absurd thing,
Yeah.
and I liked him and the sheriff.
was
They were
so
together all the
Oh,
time.
yeah, it was definitely real in canon that he had a thing with the sheriff.
He better have
Because-
because there's no way that they can have. They were together all the time.
Because it's like yes, it's like on one hand, it's like, is that actually what they intended? Absolutely not. But at the same time, what other explanation is for them? They're always together.
They're always together.
My personal theory is that Sheriff Bronson Stone just has a thing for whoever's the mayor. Because in the
Maybe.
second season, the new mayor, Janet Nettles, he actually has a thing with. Like,
yeah,
it's
like it's quite
canonically
obvious.
they have like an explicit romantic relationship.
Yeah, it's just it's interesting. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I feel like it makes sense why they did it, but I also was slightly disappointed. Does he come back in season 2, or was he only ever in season?
I
1?
can't remember actually. He might come back for a little at one point, but I think he's mostly out of the picture now.
That's devastating.
Because the reveal was so crazy too. Because it was also revealed that he was the freak of Crystal Cove,
Yeah,
which was this again. It's Scooby Doo, so of course it's
Yeah.
this guy who's putting on like this monster mask and sort of terrorizing the town
yeah.
in order to get the planispheric disc. And it's revealed that he is the guy who originally made the previous Mystery Incorporated disband and sort of leave town and made like Castor Williams go into hiding as like Angel Dynamite because he was threatening them all over the
Yeah.
planispheric disc so that he could take it for himself.
Yeah, and it's just that whole thing was just kind of crazy to begin with because they had that whole plot, and then it's like, well, that's the reason that Judy and Brad left.
Yep.
But then why would he keep Fred? Like, that's such, like, if you think about if this really happened, it'd be so weird. You have to give me your kid and you got to leave town.
I don't think it was a case that he was like, you have to give me your kid. I definitely think it was a case where he kidnapped Fred. And they said as much. I think that the reason that he took Fred was leverage. Leverage against Brad and Judy Childs. And it was like, listen, you guys keep your noses out of this planispheric disc nonsense, or else I'll, like, hurt your son or something, you know? It was definitely, I feel like it was definitely sort of,
that
like,
makes sense.
blackmail.
Oh, I'm still mad about it. I still liked the mayor to a certain degree. Like, obviously he wasn't my favorite, but
He
I thought it was so
a fun
funny.
character.
He was a fun
And
character.
had, again, fantastic expressions.
Exactly.
Fantastic expressions.
He had amazing one-liners. Jiminy Crickets, Fred.
Yeah.
But it would definitely was a plot twist. I remember, so we were watching the other day with Leanne and Michelle, and Shelby and I had been watching, but Leanne and Michelle didn't watch over break with us when we finished the season. So when Leanne, I can't remember what happened, but something was mentioned, and Leanne was like, well, where's the mayor? And we had to explain the lore.
Yes,
Leanne was
Leanne hadn't seen it.
devastated.
Leanne was like, what? What about him and the sheriff?
Exactly.
It was really funny.
I searched them up one time because I wanted to show Gab the image of them dancing together when that love potion had gone over town.
Yes, and that's another thing. There was a love potion episode that happened where someone was posing as like Aphrodite from Greek mythology and had this sort of like chemical stuff that made everyone sort of like fall in love and like partner up with someone. And the sheriff and the mayor partnered up together. And they're like dancing down the street together.
It was so funny.
It was so funny.
It was
beautiful.
amazing. And I searched that up, the amount of fan art that I found, and I guarantee you, if you look this up, for Sheriff Bronson and the mayor from season 1,
Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated.
You will find so much fan art, and I guarantee you, you'll probably find something on like AO3 or Wattpad.
Oh, yeah.
You could find some crazy stuff.
And if you can't find it, we'll get on that right away. We'll get on
we
that.
will.
I will open up my laptop the instant we stop recording and get to work. No, I have other stuff.
doing the people's work.
I'm doing the people's work. No, I have other stuff I need to do, sadly. But I would.
Happens.
I would. If I could come up with an idea, I would. But that was pretty crazy. And then what else? Let's see. What else do we have on the list? We talked about the mayor and Fred's parents. The Janet Nettles. She's the new mayor.
Yes.
We don't really see her before season 2. The first we see of her in season 2 is it's the first episode when Velma in disguise is like, listen, if you want to get rid of this guy that's like terrorizing the town in a clown costume, you should contact these people. We should talk about how the gang all went their separate ways because it was wild.
They did, and that's something we can talk about with the later movies. Is that's a common theme?
A common theme is them
Scooby-Doo
sort of
series.
breaking up and then getting back together.
I think it's probably to show that they're like very like
It's like
What's
you
the
know
word?
they're inseparable.
Resilient.
Yes, resilient. That's a better word than inseparable.
No, I couldn't remember it.
They're resilient.
But
They power
did
through.
They did split ways, and it was very interesting. It was weird because Fred left and became like a hobo,
Yeah.
looking for his parents, and then Velma was doing her own work. She was working with Mr. E. Dun dun dun.
Oh yeah, yeah. Velma was teamed up working for Mr. E, and that's where we also see the introduction of another character we can talk about in a little. But yeah, Fred, the way that he was searching for his parents was in the least intelligent way possible.
He's going from door to
He was going from door to door, knocking and being like, "Hello, does a Mr. Brad Childs or Judy Reeves live here?" Like one at a time. Like the internet exists, by the way.
Yeah,
The internet exists.
he wasn't.
So
He
there's
didn't know how to look.
even if he doesn't have a laptop by himself, there's like internet cafes and there's public libraries, which you know what? I'll cut him some slack. He just learned that his father wasn't actually his father and in fact kidnapped him from his birth parents. He was going through a lot. He was having
Yeah.
a verified mental health crisis moment.
He was. Poor guy was going through it. And not to
He was going
mention, when
through
he got back to town, Daphne was with another guy.
Oh my god.
She wanted nothing to do with
Yes.
him romantically.
So I didn't realize this until recently when I learned the one actor from Twilight is called Taylor Lautner.
Yeah.
The person that she's dating in season 2 is called Baylor Hotner and has acted in like the Dusk movies, which is basically Mystery Incorporated's version of Twilight,
Yeah.
which we've already seen, and I think it's very funny. It's very funny to me.
It is very funny. And we find out too that he was actually just using Daphne.
Yes.
Because he was
Yes.
trying to get together his like best team.
Perfect team to make him a star, even though I
Yeah.
think he's already a star.
Yeah,
That
he was.
was kind of weird. Maybe he wanted to be a bigger star.
Who knows? It was strange.
Yeah.
But I feel like everything in Mystery Incorporated is a little
Yeah.
strange, but in a fun way.
Yeah.
We also saw in the last episode we watched that Mr.
Mm-hmm.
E might be teaming back up with Professor Pericles.
Have we talked about Professor Pericles
I
before?
don't think we have.
Because Professor Pericles is sort of one of the driving antagonists in season 2 because the main plot point is a lot of the antagonists they're sort of racing against Mystery Incorporated to find the pieces of this planispheric disc, which was a disc used by the Spanish conquistadors that founded the town to sort of navigate, and everybody wants it because if you get all the pieces and put it together, it's going to show you the location of like a buried treasure. I think,
but they
classic
said the
stuff.
buried treasure was cursed, though.
Yes.
So why would anyone want it?
Well, but see, the thing is, the buried treasure is cursed. I'm pretty sure the disc is also cursed because think about what we saw with the Darrow family,
Oh,
where
yeah.
they were fighting over it, to the point that even when their house was like sinking underground,
Ooh.
they were still like the one kid, the Danny Darrow, was still like treasuring it above everything. There's very much a sort of the One Ring from Lord of the Rings vibe to the disc. I
Yeah.
think that it makes people obsessed with it. They want it.
Maybe it would be interesting. I don't think they're going to do this, but maybe it'd be interesting because Mystery Incorporated is trying to find it, not because they want the treasure,
Yes.
but because they want to.
They're trying to find it so that no one else can find it
Yeah,
first. They're
because they
trying to-
know
yeah.
there's
So
something
it doesn't fall into the wrong hands.
not good about it. Now that they're
Yeah.
learning more about the history, it would be interesting that if the disc doesn't curse them because it knows that their intentions are not to find it. That would be interesting because I know you said it's going to become like the mystery will become real, like the monster type aspect of it, which is probably something to do with the curse. But again, we're
Interesting.
not towards the end.
We're not
of it,
there
so
quite yet.
I'm just speculating. Shelby already knows.
I already know. I've seen this show several times because I watched it first. I remember me and my brother watched it. Whoa! Oh no! Don't hit the microphone.
Sorry,
It's
I
okay.
got the
It's
coffee
warm in
sweats.
here. It's warm in here.
It is.
The coffee sweats.
I just drank coffee and now I'm like sitting here like.
Lee, I told you before. You can get caffeine free coffee. Lee is bouncing in their seat in the most literal sense of the term.
I also
that
took
was
a 2-hour nap before I got here, so now I'm just energized.
okay. You know what? That's valid. That's valid. But I still think it was funny the one time we were at Starbucks and you said, and you're like, oh yeah, I kind of want to get a coffee, but the caffeine kind of makes you jittery or something. I was like,
Yeah.
you can get decaf, right? And you're like, what? And I was like,
Huh?
yeah, you can order decaf.
That's on me, guys.
It was kind of funny. It was kind of funny.
kind of silly.
No, you said it was
goofy.
upsetting your stomach, I think. The
Yeah.
caffeine was upsetting your stomach. Yeah, that was funny though. Anyway, back to what we were talking about.
Yes.
Professor Pericles. So
Creepy.
we haven't seen it quite yet, but Mystery Incorporated is not the first with Fred, like Shaggy and Velma. That's not the first group. And the group before them with, Mr. E, Cassidy Williams, Judy, and Brad is also not the first. I won't go into too much, but there have been several of these groups throughout this town's history.
Saw that.
Yes.
We saw that in the library episode.
Yep. That was sort of the steampunk Victorian Western one.
Yeah.
And one facet of these groups is that they've all had talking animal sidekicks. Which there's an in-lore reason for that, by the way.
I'm so
there's
excited
a reason they can talk.
You said we'll find out a reason that makes Scooby talk, and I've been waiting for it, but it hasn't happened yet.
Crazy. It's absolutely wild, but I think it's fun and it works. So Professor Pericles was the talking sidekick of the group that came before the Scooby Gang.
Yeah.
And so now the group has sort of, split up and went their separate ways, and Professor Pericles is trying to find this treasure. He's trying to find
he tried to betray them, didn't he?
Yes.
He tried to betray
He tried
them,
to betray
and
them.
The
freak got him.
Got him and threw him. That's why he has a scar on his face, because he got hit with a piece of glass or something. Fun fact about him, Shelby knows this, but I was terrified of him as a kid, and that's why I never watched this as a kid, because I remember watching it and liking it on TV, because that's all I had, is we had cable, so I could only watch whatever episodes were on whatever channel, if it was Disney or Disney XD or Nickelodeon, whatever it was on. And I remember when they introduced Professor Pericles when he was in jail at the first time. I got so scared and I had to stop watching. I never wanted to watch this again. But now that I'm an adult, I'm looking at it like, why was I so scared of this parrot?
I mean, it's reasonable. He's a menacing parrot. Like, I want to know whoever on the production team was like, okay, or like the writing team was like, okay, we're going to have this parrot be an antagonist. He's going to be evil. And he's got a German accent.
A German accent.
He's got the German accent, evil parrot.
Does he have glasses?
No, he doesn't have glasses.
I swear he has glasses.
He doesn't have glasses, no.
Does he have a monocle?
No. I think the Mandela effect is getting to you, bestie.
I think it is.
Could be. No, he doesn't have glasses or a monocle. But
he should, though. He'd look even scarier.
Honestly, yeah. But yeah, the first time we see him is they have again, in lore reasons, the show's kind of wild. Anything can happen. You have to have a pretty substantial willful suspension of disbelief for this one. But there's a prison just dedicated to animals. Yeah. Specifically, not a pound. Not a pound, not an animal shelter, like a prison for criminal animals.
Yeah.
Which is, Scooby's there originally because he's getting framed for something. That's what happens in this episode. But it's just, because remember it was the one where Velma rejected the one kid and his mom got angry. And then she had the whole backstory where it was like, I was going to have a successful career in military robotics and engineering, but I gave it all up to raise my son. So when I heard you, Velma, rejected him, I built this evil killer robot dog to attack you and your friends and frame your other friend, the dog. And it's like what the whoa, heck? Lady, that's a lot to unpack.
That's some deep...
that's some deeply rooted issues there, buddy.
Yeah, deeply untrustworthy things within her as a person. And I think it is interesting, you've brought this up, but how all of them have something rooted in, I was a ex-military this, or I have military experience in this. So.
It's all very tied into the military, which honestly makes sense because I feel like this world is supposed to be set in sort of like a Cold War adjacent time period. Probably. Because it's all very 60s and 70s style clothing. But again, they have like cell phones and computers.
It's definitely like in writing in my classes that I've done or books I've read for classes, when we analyze them, because that's my major, so we do that. It is interesting to find, like, you can create your alternate universes to create certain things. So you have this show that is set in this place, and they have phones, and they have computers and stuff like that. But it's very limited access, and then they also do have that very 60s, 70s relation to things. Interesting.
It's
clothing
very,
and
it exists outside of time. But honestly, I like that their dedication to because I feel like a lot of other adaptations, like I was watching Scooby Doo Stage Fright the other day, which, by the way, fantastic movie. It was so good. You have to watch it.
I will.
Or we can watch it together, whichever way. It's fantastic. It's kind of their take on Phantom of the Opera. That's the best way I can kind of describe it. It's like Phantom of the Opera adjacent.
Fun. But
they have the Scooby characters in sort of their classic outfits, but everyone else is like in modern dress. And that feels, it works because we know the characters, but it's kind of idiosyncratic. There was a time, I think, in some of the 90s Scooby-Doo movies where they did give them sort of an updated, more modern style of dress. We see that in Scooby-Doo Zombie Island. But I liked this show because this was the one that I've seen, as far as I can tell, that sort of gave everyone that same sort of style as the main group. And I thought that was really interesting.
I really like, this is slightly off topic, but related to
Yeah.
that. I really like, so since we've gotten back into Mr. Incorporated and watching other stuff, I've been very hyped with my Scooby Doo era of
So
things.
good.
And
Me too.
the amount of stuff I found on Pinterest of the other people's adaptations of the Scooby Gang that gives
It's so cool.
more
I
diverse,
love
like
love
ethnicities,
seeing
body types, stuff like that, clothing. I love that because it just they adapt the characters so well, and so many of the these artists capture the characters so well, and I just love other people's renditions of it. That's just my tangent.
Yeah, no.
It's really
Sorry, I'm
fun.
yawning again. I just say I do love seeing other people's takes on it. I think I was gonna say some takes are worse than others, but I'm talking about specifically about the Velma show. Yeah. Which I don't remember if we mentioned it.
We did briefly talk about it.
So we don't need to beat a dead horse, but
Not good.
that's how you don't do an adaptation. That's how you don't do it. Anyway, let's get back to one of the best adaptations, Mystery Incorporated.
Yes.
We still have to talk about, and now this is going to sound objectively insane. There's a character named Hot Dog Water.
Yes.
Well, that's not her name. That's her nickname
that
because
people gave her.
teenagers are cruel.
Teenagers are cruel.
Teenagers are cruel.
They really are.
Teenagers are cruel.
Her name is Marcy.
Her real name is Marcy, and she's voiced by the actress who played Velma in the 2002 live-action movies. Yeah. She's voiced by the same person, which I thought was a neat little nod, because Shaggy is voiced by the guy that played Shaggy in the live-action movie too. So that was fun. That was kind of like a cast reunion. Mm-hmm. But I think, did we talk about Marcy last time? I swear we must have.
We might have touched on her, but her character hadn't developed like she has now.
So now, her character...
You take it away. You love Marcy.
I love Marcy. I mean, you can talk about her if you want. I was just going to...
I'll bounce off you.
Okay. Well, because I was going to say, her character, she's friends with Velma. Oink. They were supposed to have a relationship, but because it was 2013 and this was a show on, what was it, Cartoon Network?
Something like that.
I feel like it was Cartoon Network. That couldn't happen. But there's still implications if you know where to look. There's still implications if you know where to look. I love her.
We talked about how her and Shaggy, like Velma and Shaggy had a thing, and that just wasn't good. But the amount of chemistry that her and Marcy have in season 2 is a million times more.
It was so cute, though, because there's the one scene where Velma's trying to, like, actually solve stuff for Mystery, but everyone's distracted by other stuff, and she's like, well, I guess I'm on my own for this one. And they're sitting on a couch, and Marcy, like, scoots closer to me, and she's like, you still have me, V, because she calls her V. That's her nickname. And it's like, oh my God.
And they're
so much better than any Shaggy and Velma relationship any series has tried to do. Because every time, we can talk about this too. Why are so many adaptations trying to get Shaggy and Velma together?
Why?
There's a reason Fred and Daphne are the only couple, okay? It's just not in the cards. Stop trying to make it work, guys.
No. They are besties, and there's no way it would work.
I know.
No way.
And the show even talks about that, because Velma's trying to, like, get with Shaggy, and Shaggy chooses Scooby over her. Which, honestly, you know what? Good for him. We love valuing platonic relationships just as much as romantic.
He knew where his priorities were, and he knew that he didn't like Velma that way.
Exactly. And
that's
you know
valid.
What? You have to respect him for that.
You gotta.
But Marcy, we see her in the beginning of season 2 because Daphne doesn't come back and join the group because she's trying to do her own thing now, especially with Baylor Hotner.
Yeah, and she's trying to
sort of distance herself, especially with Fred, because Fred kind of broke her heart. Fred broke her heart. Because a whole thing at the end of season 1 was they got engaged. Which, when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that's cool. But looking at it now, they're like in high school. I'm like, what do you mean you're engaged?
What do you mean?
You should be figuring out what college you want to go to. Or what you want to do as a job. Not getting engaged, but there's that. So Marcy comes in to replace Daphne for a little bit. And she's called Hot Dog Water, by the way, because her father owns an amusement park that's kind of failing, which is one of the plots in one of the first episodes we see her. And she's called Hot Dog Water because she smells like hot dog water, because her father quoted as saying that he recycles the water used in the theme park to boil hot dogs for bathing. Which is... Buddy, just close it at that point. Close it at that point, brother.
Come on, brother,
Brother,
what is that?
What is that? What are you doing? But okay, did you have anything you wanted to say about Marcy?
The one thing I want to say about Marcy is I hope she does come back, because the last we saw of her, she was working for Mr. E and she left town because she gave the Planispheric disc back to Velma, and Velma was the only one. After her. She was the only one that realized that it was Marcy.
It was Marcy posing as the one, like Lilith.
Yeah.
This is sort of like flying she-devil character that was sort of tormenting this one area.
Yeah. And so the rest of the gang was stuck in the ship that had fallen off the mountain or something like that. And Velma got out and went to talk to her because she realized who it was.
Yeah.
And then Marcy revealed that it was her and then gave it back and decided not to work with Mr. E. Kind of without necessarily saying it. But then Velma was like, well, what are you going to do? And then she was like, well, he's going to have to catch me first. And then she walks off into the distance and Velma watches her.
Into the sunset. And, like, first of all, that's the gayest way they could have done that. But anyway,
oh, yeah. Velma watches her as she goes.
Walking off into the sunset. Gosh. It was, I don't know, it was fantastic. And I really liked it. And Marcy does come back for a little.
She does? Okay, good.
Yeah. You'll see what happens, don't worry. So that's what's happened with Mystery Incorporated since the last Scooby special, which is this is just us telling you about our favorite Scooby Doo stuff. Which, you know what? That's what podcasts are for,
That's
man.
what podcasts are for.
That's what they're for.
Especially
also,
this podcast.
Oh yes, and I wanted to make mention of your Scooby Doo pants.
Yeah,
because Lee today is wearing these wonderful, very colorful Scooby Doo sweatpants that they got from. Did you say you got them from Walmart?
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice. They're fantastic. Very colorful. Love them so much. Super cute.
Got a little picture of them.
Yeah, the gang's all here. Exactly. But
meddling team.
Excuse me. But yes, the pants are lovely. And now let's talk into our next. Let's start talking about our next topic. I can't speak. Anyway,
it's okay.
Our next topic, and I will let you take the lead with this one because I know this is your pride and joy, your most specialist, favoritist Scooby-Doo movie.
I love this movie. I love the other ones too. I did have those ones on disc, and I watched them a lot. But Scooby-Doo Mystery Begins has a special place in my heart, just because it has a very nostalgic feel, and Shelby can like attest to that.
It really
even
does.
Watching it now, even if you hadn't actually watched it as a kid, it just has that vibe. And what I love about this movie so much is that it is what the title says. It is about how the mystery begins. It starts off with the gang. They don't know each other. They just all go to the same high school. They're very much in different, social circles.
They're in different cliques.
Yeah, they very much are. And they did a good job at perceiving the 2010 or like early 2000 like high school vibes that they have in a lot of movies around that time.
Like Daphne having like the sort of the thin purple scarf in 2009. That was spot on. I remember wearing scarves like that when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think they did a good job adapting the whole cast, like outfits and what they wear. I think the first Shaggy wears the classic outfit on the first day that we see them that the movie begins on. He's got the kind of brown pants, brown red kind of pants, and then the green shirt. But then he wears other stuff eventually that's kind of more who he is, but still similar color palettes. He's kind of the loner. He doesn't really have any friends. And then he meets Scooby because Scooby is a dog that isn't able to be adopted by anyone because everyone thinks he's weird, and he gets lost.
He doesn't get lost. The guy who like is hosting this animal adoption event is like, oh, you'll get him next time, Scoob. And as he's driving away, he like hits a bump, and the crate that Scooby is in goes flying out of the truck, and this guy just doesn't notice.
Nope.
So then
Scooby's kind of on his own.
He's kind of on his own, and then he kind of like he wanders and he finds a cemetery, which
is the hint about our mystery.
Which is the hint about our mystery.
Two ghosts emerge, which scares him, so he runs away and he runs into Shaggy's house. And that's how Shaggy and Scooby become besties. And then you've got Fred, Daphne, and Velma, who are all very much in their own realms, which you liked what they did with Daphne's character.
I did. I thought it was very interesting because I feel like all the other characters fit specific archetypes, right? Like Shaggy's kind of like the loser, kind of like the stoner.
Yeah.
Fred's kind of like, the jock, the leader. Velma's the nerd, the researcher. But they did something really interesting in this movie, which they made Daphne a theater kid.
They made Daphne
which
a theater
was
kid.
So unexpected.
She's a lot more too. She's not damsel in distress either.
Yes.
She's very much like a connection to, doesn't she karate chop someone at one point? I think she does.
That might be the 2002 movie. Maybe, I don't remember.
I swear I remember going, hi-ya, and then she like kicks someone.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm
don't remember.
It was when the Spectre, she thought it was the Spectre and they were in the costume room, but it was just one of the costumes.
Yes.
She like kicks him, which
You're
I like
right.
because it does connect to the 2002
Yes.
movie. But she just has her whole own vibe, and I love the costuming that they do. I love the plot. Just everything about it was great. And so I needed to make Shelby watch it.
Honestly,
and then I made Logan watch it.
Oh yeah, and then we made our whole group of friends watch it here.
Yeah.
And then you came home with me for the 3-day weekend on Easter, and you made my brother watch it too.
Yeah.
It was fun though. It was really fun. It was a good time. I liked the expansion on Daphne's character because I feel like she's always just kind of the rich girl, which I mean she still was rich. There's even a joke about it in the movie. And she's like, just because I have money doesn't mean I get everything handed to me, and I'm not that rich just because I have like a butler and a groundskeeper and a maid and a chauffeur. And she just kept going on and on. But the theater kid part was really interesting. I liked it.
It expanded it.
And it was relevant because at one point the plot of this movie is crazy, by the way.
Oh, it is.
Describe the plot of the movie to us.
Okay.
Because I don't know if I could do it justice because you've seen it so many times.
I have. So we start out and the gang doesn't know each other.
Yeah.
But they all ride the same bus to school. One day, they get into a bit of a fight because after Shaggy meets Scooby, he brings Scooby on the bus in a disguise to make him look like a person for some
Similar to the 2002
unknown
movie.
reason. For some unknown reason. Yes, like the 2002 movie when he's the grandma.
He's dressed up as the lady.
Yeah.
And Daphne's like, no one will ever fall for that. And Fred's just like, who's that ugly lady?
Yeah. 'Cause Fred is
Fred's just a little
lovable meathead.
Yeah.
And so Scooby ends up biting someone because he is bullying Shaggy. And then they all end up in a fight. A bunch of people on the bus start like pounding on each other, specifically the main group of antagonists, because I think Daphne's script gets thrown around. Velma's science
fair
project gets ruined.
Yeah.
And then Fred is trying to stop his friend, who he's just like really acquaintances with. He's the one who's bullying Shaggy. So they're all fighting. And the bus hits a flagpole, which knocks into the vice principal Grimes' car and smashes it.
Which it's like a brand new Ferrari.
A brand new Ferrari, red Ferrari, and he just showed him like cleaning
him,
it
like,
and being like, "Oh, I love my car,
my new car,
my new car that I spent my entire paycheck, life savings on."
Well, but he can't be doing that. He can't be doing that bad for himself because by the end of the movie, he has another one.
That is true.
He is making bank for a high school principal.
He really is.
Or high school vice principal. You're so right.
So, anyways, they have a very breakfast bunch type.
Breakfast Club.
Yeah. What?
Breakfast Club.
Oh, sorry.
You said Breakfast Bunch. It's okay. It's
My
close.
bad.
I
Close
think
enough.
maybe you combined Breakfast Club and Brady Bunch.
I did.
Happens. Happens.
My brain sometimes.
It's okay. You said you just took a 2-hour nap and
I
then had
did.
some coffee before coming here, so
I
you're not
did.
operating under the most ideal conditions.
It's been a long week.
It's been a long week.
But they end up in detention, and so they all kind of have to bond, but they end up fighting. But then these two ghosts appear and try to scare the school at the pep rally, and they try to stop it and warn everyone. But then obviously they're blamed for this, so they're all suspended because they think the vice principal thinks they're trying to get back at him or the school for
He
giving
thinks they're a
them
bunch of like
punishment.
mischievous troublemakers.
Yeah, like a bunch of hooligans.
a bunch of good for nothing punks.
Oh yeah. They ain't allowed around here anymore.
Yeah, and it's the stuff just keeps escalating.
Oh, it does.
And it's insane, and I love it though.
It really is. They go on this whole mystery to try to find the ghosts and figure out who is framing them. So at one point they break into the school, another point they go disguises, and they go to the school during the day to look at their suspects.
Which the disguises. It's a movie that was made in 2009, of course. So they give Velma the classic sort of like popular girl makeover. And I think Daphne has the one line that's like, "You'd be surprised what a little makeup could do," or something like that.
And she's like plucking
and
Velma's
she's like plucking her
eyebrows.
eyebrows. And then Velma, for some reason, is kind of interested in Fred in this one, and there's almost like a love triangle thing.
Yeah.
But it's not a huge plot thing, so I'll let it slide.
She mentions that she has never had friends before, and that she needs to bring someone like a +1 to a science event, and she mentions maybe bringing Fred, and then Daphne like clips her fingernails a little extra hard, and then Velma goes, "Ow," and then Daphne goes, "Sorry, slipped." So it kind of shows that little like Daphne is interested, but she also doesn't really want him to know because she's trying to be like
trying to be like coy about it, you know.
Which
there's more about that in the second movie, but that's
Oh, yeah.
for when we talk about that. I thought it was a really nice touch, sort of. because I feel like we don't have too many adaptations showing how they sort of got together and became friends. I really like the kind of Breakfast Club scenario where it's like we're all different, but we can also get along. Because I thought the detail was really neat that they all liked mystery books.
Yeah.
Because they're stuck in the library for detention, and they're like, well, what can we do? And the librarian's like, you can read. So they're like, which honestly, if that's detention, I would not mind at all.
I would go to detention.
I'd go to detention for fun. Because, I mean, in the Breakfast Club, obviously, they're stuck there on a Saturday. Yeah. You know, they have to write this essay. Gosh. But this one is just like, you got detention. You have to read for 2 hours. And it's like, that sounds pretty sweet to me. Mm-hmm. That sounds pretty sweet to me. Yeah. But they all bond over that.
They do.
And, oh my gosh. I know I said I'd let you lead. If you think I'm talking too much, let me know. But I just keep thinking about things out of this movie that I thought were really fun and that I enjoyed.
You go.
So, in this movie, Shaggy makes Scooby snacks and ends up naming them after Scooby because he likes them so much. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what did he say they were? Was it like oats, chocolate, and dog food?
He was like,
it's
there's
chocolate and dog food.
Like flour, eggs, a little bit of cocoa powder, sugar. You know, the basics, a little bit of doggy kibble for the texture.
Yeah, and then because Fred and Daphne are eating it, we're like, oh, this is good. What's in this? And he's describing it, and then they just like spit it out.
Yeah, which when he's not looking.
I want to say, Scooby in this movie, obviously not a normal dog. Shaggy has been feeding him cocoa powder. Shaggy has been feeding him chocolate. I feel the need to mention this.
Yeah, literally.
Which is, usually poisonous, but Scooby's just built different.
Scooby is built different. He also looks slightly terrifying in this adaptation, but you just gotta ignore it.
Which I saw someone say something really funny on Letterboxd, which was how did the CGI from 2002 and 2009 get worse? Which is, I'd say the difference is 2002 is a full production movie. 2009, this was a Cartoon Network original.
Yeah, exactly. This was not a movie theater.
It wasn't a Hollywood blockbuster. No.
This was very much like, oh, here's Scooby Doo. We want to make our own version. But I can wrap it up quick by saying they end up thinking that Vice Principal Grimes, the one who put them in detention.
Because they destroyed his car and he has it out for them. He thinks they're doing all this stuff with the ghosts, which I also thought it was interesting that from the get-go, ghosts are real.
Ghosts are real, yeah.
There's no, it's just a guy in a mask. No, there's ghosts that are real.
Yeah, so basically the premise is that someone has risen two ghosts, which are the founders of the Coolsville School. Before the flood. That's the lore that you need to know. Is that there was a flood in Coolsville in like the, what was it, like the 1800s is what they said?
Or 1800s or like early 20th century.
Yeah, early 20th century type time period. And it took out most of the town. So they really just kind of built over top of the town, like kind of swept everything away.
And there's a time capsule that they were about to like bury, but it never got buried because, the whole school got swept down.
So it got lost in the old school. Mm-hmm. So the Spectre, who we don't know who it is, they assume is Vice Principal Grimes, raises these two ghosts from the dead to kind of try to scare the school so he can find the time capsule. Yep. They think it's Vice Principal Grimes, so they go and break into his house because naturally that's what
objectively insane thing to do. Which, and I love the lead up to this scene too because they've got the mystery machine, which is the old groundskeeper's van at Daphne's house, which it gets the name because Velma goes, it's a mystery. This machine still runs. And it's like, and also Shaggy is revealed to have been held back for a couple of years and is the only one among them that can drive.
Yeah, because he just got his license.
Yeah, which means all the other characters are supposed to be like 14 or 15. Which is so funny because they so look like 23
Oh, they probably were all like 19, 20, 21
at
or
least.
Older.
It was really funny.
And I thought that their characters fit pretty well for they look like maybe they could be seniors at the most. But it just to think that they were trying to make them look 14, no. Did not work.
No.
But yeah, they drive to his house, they break in, they try to find evidence, and they do find a book that was the book they were looking for that had risen the ghosts. Yeah. So they think they figure out that it was him. But when they go to leave the house, someone, the Spectre, sprays them with like knocking out type gas.
Basically sleeping gas.
Yeah. And they wake up in the school gym. They're locked in, and the floor has been exploded with dynamite.
There's
and
like
a rope is left there.
Yeah.
And the Spectre threatens to do something to their dog, or they'll never see their dog again, or the vice principal, because then you find out the vice principal definitely didn't do it because he's been captured.
Because he's like, you're gonna go down there and find that time capsule for me if you ever want to see Scooby Doo alive again. It's like, and they're like, we know it's you, Principal Grimes, and he's like, oh, you think I'm that guy? And then it pans over from like the dog crate that has Scooby in it to like the dog crate that has the vice principal in it, and he's bound and gagged.
Literally, he's gagged, and then he's a gash on his head, and he's like sitting there like, help
Yeah, and then they're like, oh no, we were wrong.
So they end up down in the old school, and they're looking for the time capsule, and they plan how to capture the guy. But they by accidentally raise the dead in the process. So more ghosts terrorize the town, but then they figure the spell and put them back. Capture the Spectre. But then the Spectre gets a hold of the time capsule and is about to like leave. And he was gonna threaten to like leave them down there.
Yeah, he was
like,
gonna like bury them alive.
Yeah, basically.
I think he was about to like kill them or something.
But then they do end up. Scooby gets out and Scooby saves them. And you find out that it was the principal the whole time, who was, you know, kind of the good, like, goody two-shoes principal who's
kind of bossed around by Grimes.
Yeah. So that's why Vice Principal Grimes is assumed to be the guy who did it, because he was kind of this, like, you know, kind of bad guy, but he really wasn't. And he was trying to get the time capsule because it had a misprint stamp in it, because he loves stamps, which you learn in the first 5 minutes of the movie, because he's trying to get Shaggy into stamp collecting.
It was also super valuable, I think. Yeah, so it was like a money thing, too.
So he wanted that, and the gang gets thanked for saving the school and putting that guy behind bars. And then they're all kind of like, well, what do we do now? And then they go to separate ways, but then they all come back together and like, hey, there's some...
And Velma's like, I heard this other mystery is happening, and they all sort of reconvene, and that's how they go. And
that is the movie.
I was going to say, is there anything else you want to say about The Mystery Begins? Because I really want to talk about Curse of Lake Monster, and we have 13 minutes.
Yeah, you take that one.
We have 13 minutes.
You take charge on that one.
Okay.
I'll give comments.
So, Scooby Doo the Curse of Lake Monster is the sequel to this movie.
Yes, which we watched right after.
We watched right after it.
And I had never seen it all the way through, so I had no idea.
Was wild. So the basic plot line isn't terrible. I actually might steal the plot line and try to do something with D&D for it. Yeah. Because it's not terrible. Because it's like, you know, they're high school students. They kind of go their separate ways in the summer. But wait, no, they're not. Because Daphne's uncle has just opened up like a lakeside... Is it like a country club? It's a country club. He's opened up a lakeside country club and resort, and he hired Daphne and the rest of the group because, you know, cheap labor, it's teenagers.
Yeah.
So it opens with them driving to this unspecified lake location, which it's near Ohio. It's near Ohio because the first movie canonically takes place in Ohio, which we learned that because Shaggy's uncertain about driving, and Fred's like, hey, the state of Ohio saw fit to give you a driver's license. You can do this. So they go there, they're working, everything's fine. Shaggy starts developing a crush on Velma after he like falls off the mystery machine and like she catches him or something. Yeah,
because they say that's how Fred and
that's how Fred and Daphne got together.
Because she falls out of a barn and Fred catches her and they kind of fall for each other. So then Shaggy, who probably has never had a relationship, just assumes, oh my gosh, Velma, you're actually really pretty. And then he falls
You must
for
be
her.
the girl for me.
Yeah.
It's cringeworthy. Blech. I don't like it at all. We'll tell you more about later Scream that actually made us like
would not
scream. But so they're working here. Things are fine. Daphne's and Fred's relationship on the rocks, by the way. Daphne is pretty sure they're serious and committed. Fred is like, yeah, you know, it's just kind of a fling thing. It's casual. And they're like, yeah, the other understands. But it causes a whole thing because Fred's sort of like being flirty with other girls. So then Daphne starts being flirty with some other guys. And Fred's like, oh, what are you doing? You can't do that. And she's like, well, what were you doing with those other girls then? And she's got him there. She's got him there.
She does.
She's got him there. But the plot of this movie is, oh my gosh, Fever Dream A movie is what you wrote, which I think was really funny. Because it is. So the plot of this movie is basically this big frog creature starts showing up and terrorizing everyone. At the club specifically, Velma finds these weird crystals on the beach, starts acting weird. Oh, where do I even start? So the plot is eventually revealed that there was a witch that used to live in this town that was executed or something, and she had this magic staff, which is made of the crystals that Velma was finding, and it's revealed that magic is real again. Velma keeps finding these crystals. The ghost of this witch is sort of possessing her. She's using magic to make more frog people. Yeah. And to terrorize the town because she wants to get revenge for what they did to her. And it's... They try to have like a coy little reveal that it's like, oh, and Velma's been behind it the whole time. But it's like the instant that every time the frog creature attacked and she's not there, you kind of know. Because I thought she was the frog creature at first.
Yeah,
I thought she was the frog creature. Like a were creature. Yeah.
Like kind of vibe.
But it's revealed that she's being possessed by the ghost of this witch. And where do I even go from here? There is By this point in the movie, there's been one musical number already.
Yeah. We were not expecting this. This does not say it's a musical, but
No.
there was a musical number, and it was wild.
It's between Shaggy and Velma, and they're on the beach because they're bonding over like this old like vaudeville type song they like. They're in full costume for this, by the way. Shaggy's in like a barbershop quartet outfit.
Yeah.
Velma's in like this very Edwardian outfit. She's got like a lace parasol and everything. There's like a back set with the moon and like paper waves, like water made out of waves that are moving. Crazy. Where did that come from? But I'm trying to see, what else do we have written? Oh, another prominent thing about this movie. There is no Scooby. Scooby is not in it.
He is from time to time, but it's only like to be like, oh, he's jealous that he makes fun of Shaggy for liking Velma.
Which that's a common theme.
And there was like one other thing, but he was like barely in it. He was barely a plot point.
We didn't notice because the rest of the movie was so insane, but
it was like a cover up.
Yeah, we said at the same time, we were like, they didn't have enough budget have enough budget to animate Scooby into the majority of this movie, which I think is so funny.
It is.
So the climax of the movie is when they're sort of confronting the witch that's been possessing Velma, and she in like this cave underground, I think, where she's making more frog people. Fred ends up shirtless at least one point, which is bizarre.
They have to swim underwater to get there, so they're swimming and like they each have like a
scuba outfit.
Yeah, and when they get above there, everyone keeps theirs on, but then
Fred's like
unzips the top and like folds it down, so then his whole torso is showing, and we were like, put your shirt back on, sir.
Put those away.
No. Come on, Fred.
It was
better than this.
So funny though, because there's a scene where like Velma, she's making more frog people, sending them after the people possessed by the ghost, and everyone else is running away. They're like, "Oh shoot, what can we do?" And then Shaggy stays behind. And from that moment, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I was like, no. Yeah. And he keeps talking to Velma. He's like, Velma, I know you're in there.
Yeah. He's trying to like pull it out of her to like find her again.
And they end up kissing. And that's what ends up knocking the ghost out. When I tell you that me and all of our friends, we were all screaming when that happened. We were like, no! We thought we were about to get a noise complaint.
Oh, yeah.
Because of how much we were yelling. Because it was just so uncomfortable and bad.
It was so uncalled for.
It was so uncalled for.
No, you do not need to do this. No. But luckily, they didn't end up together.
Didn't pan out.
They were like, oh, we're better as friends. And so that was good, but they just didn't need to have any of it at all.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's the one scene earlier in the movie, too, where Shaggy tries to ask Velma out, and she's like, no, I'm not interested. And then he basically guilts her into going on a date with him because he's so sad and pathetic about it. She's like, oh, well, fine, I guess I'll go on a date with you. And then Scooby poses as the waiter and is like trying to sabotage their date. Mm-hmm. And it's just weird. But I want to talk about the ending because we have 7 minutes left, and that feels like a sufficient way to spend 7 minutes. Because the ending of this movie, you'll never guess what happens. What happens, Lee?
What part are we talking about?
I'm talking about specifically the second musical number.
Oh, yeah. I was like, wait, isn't that the end of the movie? No.
You would be wrong.
They decide to end it on a musical number where right after the kiss and everything, and they kind of work it all out. And
everything's kind of resolved. The country club is fine.
Yeah, they get an award for money.
Yep, they get money.
And they name themselves Mystery Incorporated.
Yep. Daphne and Fred stop dating, I think.
They kind of, it insinuates that they all decide to be friends. Yeah. And then it cuts to a musical number of them singing about mystery solving or something like that.
Yes.
And at one point, they're dancing like on grass, like at the beach, at the country club, singing.
They go through
like a 60s disco.
Because they go through several, they start at like the normal time period, I think, where the movie takes place. And then it's like 60s hippie.
Yeah.
And then it's 70s disco, which honestly, I rock with the outfits for that. That was kind of good. But it was just...
And then like 2000s punk.
Yeah, and then like 2000s punk, like punk rock. It was like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah, and then they did a callback to the original outfits, but they changed the people dressed up. So like Shaggy was dressed as Fred, and then Velma was dressed as Daphne.
Really?
Daphne, yeah, they swapped
I didn't remember
outfits.
that. I remembered the scene where in the movie they're hiding from the frog monster, and there's the two mannequins in the store.
Yeah, they did
dressed as Daphne and Fred, and they kind of dress in those outfits. And they even make a joke, because, by the way, the Fred in this movie isn't blonde.
Yeah, no.
which some people were upset about. But if you know the lore, like Lee does,
do know
you'll
the
know
lore.
why was his hair, tell for the listeners, why was his hair not blonde?
So his hair was not blonde because as a person who had a disc that had the special features that they watched on a regular, because that's what I did as a child.
That's so real.
You would find out that the actor they hired to be Fred, they tried to make him blonde. They tried to give him wigs. They tried to think about dyeing his hair, all this stuff. But the more they tried, the more it looked so bad. So they just decided to bite the bullet and just have him be his natural dark hair color, which I think was an interesting adaptation. And he still seems like Fred. He still acts like Fred, still dresses like it. I think it was fun.
It definitely, I can understand the criticisms of it though, because it kind of throws you off. He feels less like Fred without the blonde hair, I think.
Yeah.
But I can understand why they didn't do it.
I think the actor was good, and I think it was an interesting adaptation.
Yes,
but people had a problem, but they just don't know the lore.
This is so true. But yeah, no, because there's a joke. He's wearing like the blonde wig, and he's like, "Hey, blonde's a good color on me," or something.
Yeah, he's like, oh.
But this movie was crazy. I feel like they just started doing whatever halfway through because they knew it wasn't going to be like a blockbuster. I definitely feel like the musical number at the end is indicative of that.
Yeah.
They were just like, and now we're going to have a musical number that goes from the 60s to the 70s to like early 2000s, punk. Which, something that I thought was really funny, the cinematographer for this movie was someone, I think, who worked on Halloween. And was a guy that worked with, like, John Carpenter and Steven Spielberg.
Which is crazy.
He has the craziest career record, because it's all, like, horror movies and then, like, family comedies.
Yep. No in between.
Bonkers. Wild.
Do we want to briefly touch on the Spooky Island adaptation?
I don't know, because I feel like, didn't we talk about that last time? I think we talked about it last time.
We probably did, but
we can talk about some things that we like again if we want. Because we
you want to take it away?
Well, yeah, I was just say I like it because obviously it was one of my favorite childhood movies. I watched it so much. Ignore what just happened to my voice. I don't know what that is. Anyway, I watched it all the time. One of my favorites. Still holds up pretty well. Yeah. I think. Little heavy on some of, like, the fart jokes at points.
Yeah.
That's because it's supposed to be a children's movie. I don't follow it too much for that. I think it's a very good example of how you can take an adaptation and sort of modernize it without altering the characters too much from, like, their core elements or their core styles. Because their outfits, they all are decidedly very, like, early 2000s outfits. But they're still recognizable as the Scooby Gang.
They are.
They're still recognizable as a Scooby Gang. And I thought that was very fun.
I think it is too.
Yeah. It's a fun premise too.
I do wish in other adaptations that they would have done more with Velma's outfits, because I feel like in all the adaptations, especially live action, they do stick with very much. She has this one style and she just wears the turtleneck and a skirt. Yeah. And I think it would be fun to see her wear different things. But listen, I'm not going to argue much about it.
I loved what they did with one of Velma's outfits in Scooby Doo: The Mystery Begins, which is they gave her the gayest outfit I've ever seen. Which is she had like a little vest with some pins on it, like a button-up shirt and a tie and like a skirt, I think it was.
It was so
Which
good.
I think is even funnier because she was played by like Haley Kiyoko.
Yeah.
Which
slay.
So funny. Which, okay, how are you gonna have Velma being played by Haley Kiyoko and still make her kiss Shaggy?
Literally.
Hello?
Literally. And there's at one point where maybe I'm thinking of the Monsters Unleashed, but there's a point when Daphne calls her like hot or something.
Oh, yes, I think so.
It. But I swear that if anyone were together, if Fred and Daphne are not together, that it would be Velma. And
I almost said Fred and Velma. No.
No.
Sorry.
It would be Velma and Daphne.
Yeah, I think so. I would agree with that. I think that would make a lot of sense, honestly.
It would. I love them.
Yeah. Anyway, Scooby Doo: The Mystery Begins was pretty solid. I liked it about Scooby Doo and the Curse of the Lake Monster. Fever dream and a half. There's a scene where like Fred and Daphne are about to drown in this lighthouse or something. Not lighthouse. They're on a boat.
In a boat.
And they're like bickering about their relationship.
They are.
And Fred ends up breaking them out because he's like, if we're gonna die, I'm not gonna die in here with you.
And then they kind of like hate each other for a hot second.
Yeah, which I feel like
they work.
That's a brave take for Daphne and Fred, because I feel like their thing is they're always like they always kind of they're kind of in love, but one or the other, it's like oblivious and they don't talk their feelings out. Scooby Doo Stage Fright did a really good job of showing out that they were both kind of interested in each other, but they weren't saying anything. But yeah, all right. So I think that about wraps it up. If you have any final remarks.
I don't know.
All right. Well, that does it for the Scooby Special Part 2. And you can bet there's going to be Part 3. But we might have to find some other things to talk about. You know what we can do for Part 3? We'll probably have finished Mystery Incorporated by then.
Yeah.
We can also watch some of the movies, some of the other animated movies. Listen, we can keep talking about Scooby Doo for eons.
Oh, we could.
There's so much content to work with.
Don't tempt us.
Oh, yeah.
We will.
Exactly. Anyway, that does it for Peculiar Happenings. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Lee.
Stay weird.